Hello and welcome to the C# Open Office Hours time. Today is, what is today, March 21st? Yeah, March 21st, 2012. So with that, we're now looking over at Nelson's screen at the moment, and question time. Very small group tonight. We got 5 of us in here at the moment.
Everyone else is probably panicking doing their homework at the last minute.
It's possible. But I do want us to talk about homework tonight. He said everybody's probably panicking at the moment. And no, we're still here. If you're wondering, Nelson just muted his mic for a moment. Okay, Nelson, your mic is still muted just in case you don't realize it.
Hey.
Hey.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hey. Yes.
All right. Well, we have our first question that came in from Alexander. It says, can you give a terse pseudocode example, basically, for displaying 3 lists in a column without having an explanation while printing a list that is not in range?
It's about as terse as I can make it.
And the end. Hopefully that was helpful.
All right. So if you think about the problem, you really need to iterate. So if you have 3 columns, so you need a bunch of rows. And each row is going to correspond to a single row.
How about this? Instead of doing not close, close, and hang in there, how about just doing male, female, and pet? There you go. You can keep a list of male names, female names, and pet names. Or other. Okay, that'll work. It's got to be difficult.
Okay, so you have 3 columns, and each one of the rows corresponds to an individual operation to write out to the screen. Now think about how many rows you'll need to print all the rows that are required to display all of the information that you want to display.
Can you rephrase that? You said it in such a way that even my head hurt.
How many total rows are you going to need to print out all the information of all 3 columns?
Okay.
That's the first. I mean, if you want to take a stab at answering that.
Anyone? Anyone? Wouldn't it be the largest number of
Oh, well, you just gave it away.
Of pets?
Oh.
I wasn't done. Nobody was talking back. Everybody's just all chilling out tonight. Come on, guys. Meta said repeat the question.
How many total rows do we need in order to present all of the information from each 3 column?
So the total number of rows. No, not columns. So yeah, columns vertical, rows horizontal. So how many rows total? Come on, somebody.
It looks like Darth Greg got it.
It wouldn't hurt if I joined over here into
Yay, Darth Greg.
BuzzNet.
He said largest list.count.
Okay, so which I agree with. So whichever list contains the most I mean, if you only had one male, one female name, and 4 pets, you're obviously going to have 4 rows. You would need 4 rows for all 4 pets to be listed. So that would be the largest, would be the pets in that case.
Yep.
Nelson started commenting like Yoda. Get the largest count between each 3 lists.
Okay. Next step is we need to, from 0 to X, we need to print each column. And when printing each column, we need to start off with a check to see if, so then we'll go for each column. Check to see if column contains an item at the index. And then, if it does, do this. If it does not, do this. All right. So are you starting to see how the algorithm might come together? Is Boreas Alexander? Who's Alexander? Ah, okay. So did this answer your question, or should I go into more detail?
Okay,
All right,
cool.
sweet.
All right, so you had another question that came in via PM, I do believe. The individual wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, but was hoping to get an answer so that he could watch this video once it gets posted.
All right, 2.6 says, I'm having trouble breaking out of 2 nested loops and eventually ended up using gotos. I've understood that I could and should have used a bool variable to achieve the same thing. How bad is using gotos in this scenario? Maybe you can even come up with an example of how I should have done it. Thanks, here's the code. So let me go ahead and yank this code and dump it over here. Let's go ahead and okay, so our navbar close list of int. And it doesn't even compile. I guess, yeah. Oh, unless he used a list of strings for his guesses.
Yeah, you've got some curly brace problems. Or wait, yeah. Hang on.
Only.
Whoa.
I don't know. I don't use gotos. Don't ask me how to properly use them. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what it was. Wow.
That makes it rock.
It's now the most awesome program ever.
That must be how you distinguish rock from rock.
All right, so he has this code, and he's wondering if his use of gotos here is bad, and it is. He's also wondering how would I have made it not use gotos. Oh, and then the reason it is it's because they're just bad. I mean, we've been over this over and over and over and over again. Gotos have absolutely no value to the reader of the code. They mean absolutely nothing. The entire reason why the C# language creators invented the concepts of for loops and for each loops and while loops and if statements and all this stuff and else branches is specifically because those constructs have meaning and are easier to use and much easier to read and much easier to write. Go-tos have no meaning. They are meaningless. They're just there. It could be a loop. It could be an else statement or a switch statement. You have no value, or you have no guarantee that, for example, break loop. You have no guarantee that that's the only time that break loop was go-to'd. There could be a variety of places within your code that breaks to or that go-tos gone to that label or went to that label. You get what I'm saying? It just doesn't.
It just doesn't.
It has no meaning. It has no value, and it has no purpose other than to cause situations like this.
And to deeply upset Nelson.
Yes. Okay, so, I mean, is everybody good about go-tos?
So now let's demonstrate how this could have been done without go-tos, the proper way.
Okay, so basically what you should do in this particular case is the answer's right here. We could simply say down here, if sorted, break, sorted equals true, and break. At that point, go-tos are completely unnecessary. So all I did was I used this Boolean that's set to true when a thing is sorted. I'm not entirely sure about, this isn't about the actual code. This is about just the concept of breaking out of two for each loops.
Right.
But in this case, he already had a Boolean that he set to true when he wanted things to end. So we can just use that variable down here and break out of that. And then use the break statement to break out of the innermost loop. And then a break statement to break out of the outermost loop. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm. All the cool people are in BuzzNet.
What? Wait, am I in there? Yeah, wait. What? Just checking.
Alrighty. We have somebody who's very upset about the homework.
Soganatsu, who now needs a beer because of it.
And then we have stuck on homework, wonder what to do, not sent it in yet. What are you stuck on? What's your question? And here's where, this is the time that we have to answer questions like that.
That's right. Stop playing with the button, Nelson.
I like my button.
I like pushing your buttons. You get all irritated and mad and spit. It's funny.
All right, Wolf Knightley.
Not really.
Huh?
Sorry. Sorry, I was just amusing myself.
Yeah, we can jump to Walt Knightley's screen, but I want to see what Jen said. I think it's a comparing the number. I'm drowning in my code right now. Can't get the table to appear how it's supposed to.
All right, let's do this. Let's go back to my male, female, and pet example. Let's just do it. For those that don't want to see the code, don't look. Yeah.
Alrighty, so code. We have 3 lists of strings.
Mockles.
What just happened?
What's a
that
mockle?
Was bizarre.
I'm getting a lot of lag at this end, much more than normally on a webinar.
Twilight Flopple.
Pardon?
That's nothing. Surprised Jason didn't get it.
Oh, a quick note to let you guys. Yeah, no, I did get it, Nelson. Okay. Anyways, for those of you that had trouble with the video, we apologize, and we're working to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so just bear with us. Come to find out, what really threw the system into a tailspin was Zach's 5.5-hour long Blender course, which after compression and encoding only managed to get down to just under half a gig. And then we had a ton of people all trying to watch that file, and the system was just like, oh, dear God, and it just went all unhappy. So I'm going to end up splitting these longer class sessions up into a part 1 and a part 2.
How long does an hour of video generally take to encode if it's, a coding video?
It doesn't take too terribly long. An hour is probably 20 minutes or so.
Oh, that's good.
But compared to how we used to do the videos, now we're doing, the higher resolution, 1280 by 800, and taking that and
yeah, I was looking at some of the older videos the other day for some reason, and wow, the difference.
Yes.
It was with some of the ones with Logan on.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge difference, and so yeah, and of course, yeah, as Chris just pointed out over in BuzzNet, of course, with something like Blender, where there's modeling going on or a lot of screen rotation, a lot of data that needs to end up getting encoded, where with something like a coding video, these files are going to be a lot less in size because there's nowhere near as much data that's being stored. But of course, in Zach's videos, lots and lots of...
Although it has to be said, even there, back in the days of like the 3ds Max videos and things like that, I can remember you occasionally jumping in saying, do you want to remember not to keep rotating around the model all the time?
Yeah.
Just because you really couldn't couldn't capture it more than about 2 frames a second.
Yeah.
Type faster, Nelson.
I don't know why I can't type today. My wrist hurts.
So,
Just trying to make this as simple, as straightforward as possible.
I'll tell you what I do find interesting about this homework is so many people got hung up on the formatting. I haven't heard many questions about the actual process of generating, checking, and so forth with the numbers.
now people are going to be saying, what the heck is pad right? You didn't teach me pad right, Nelson.
I'll explain in a second. Well, I'll do it manually in a second. I don't know. I'll do something in a second.
Well, you can do it manually when you actually go through the homework. Actually, Jason, I don't know how you feel about this, but given that there were the problems with the videos and the number of people who seem to have had problems with the string formatting, I'm willing to push back the deadline a day
Yeah,
Make it at the beginning of tomorrow's class, and then you can talk about homework in tomorrow's class. Maybe.
yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay. I'll change the site to show that.
Oh, what was his name? The rabbit? Oh, whatever.
Dylan.
No, his name was Angel. There we go.
No, it was Dylan, and then there was Florence and Dougal and Zebedee on the spring.
I'm stupid. Thanks for. I know you noticed that, Jason.
Actually, I can't laugh and say I did that time because I didn't. I wasn't watching.
I don't know why I put this in a loop, but I did. Well, yeah, because I wanted to show the console.clear and the console.read key. No, just a sec.
What time's tomorrow night's class?
Normal start
Thursday.
time.
That's the evening one, isn't
Yes, it is.
it? Yeah.
All right, so does everybody see that this is presenting properly? And every time I hit a key, it completely redraws itself. So that's another aspect of the homework that should have been put together. So anyway, so here's what I basically did. Just checking to see if there are any more questions about what I was writing. Okay. Okay, so what I did, I have 3 lists of strings, males, females, and pets. Populate them with data, and then I enter a while loop. At the beginning of every while loop, I go ahead and I write the header out. So the header just includes males, females, and pets as columns. And I made sure to get there's 2 spaces of padding between each one, so it looks all pretty. And every one of these columns is a fixed width. Well, I guess I could do that. Then I write code that determines what the maximum amount of items are. So I start saying by int max items equals males.count, and then I check to see, well, are there more females than males? If so, set max items to females.count. Are there more pets than either males or females? If so, set the max items to pets.count. So that's what happens actually in this case because we have more pets than we do males or females. So at this point, the max items becomes 4 because we have a total of 4 pets, which is the most amount of items in any individual list. So then we enter a for loop, and this for loop is going to loop from 0 to 3, and it's going, every iteration of the loop is going to correspond to a single row being printed out. So as you see, here's one row, here's another row, here's another row, and here's another row. Remember, once something is printed out to the console, there's no going back. So you have to do this all from left to right, so you have to do the entire row at the same time. So the first thing I do is I create 3 variables, male, female, and pet, for each one of the 3 columns, and I assign them to just empty string, because this is going to be the default value if they don't have anything in them. Then I'm going to see, is I less than males.count? Meaning, now that we're on row 4, or pretend we're on row 3, so I is equal to 2, and we have 1 male. That means that we are not going to be printing out a male for this row because the current row that we're looking at doesn't have the males collection doesn't have enough items to get to the current row that we're looking at. And we repeat this 3 times. can we grab a male, can we grab a female, and can we grab a pet? And then we alias them all out to the variables down here. And then finally on line 64, I go ahead and print them out. Now I did cheat and use the pad write method. In the homework, however, using this method is not necessary. And I'll give you a hint. There's your hint. Greg, we can definitely do that. So people who had questions about presenting the table, what do you guys think about the code right here? Is this straightforward?
If it's not or you're confused, do not be shy, please.
Christian, I used the pad write method. I kind of cheated because in the homework you guys were dealing with 3-digit numbers all the time, guaranteed, so you didn't have to put any special logic here. But in this case, this example, it's not necessarily true. So I used the pad write method, which is a method on the string object that's going to pad the string object to the right to match this number for how many characters are in it. In this case, it's 13. And then I pad it with the space. If I change this to a dash, we would get this. So that's, well, let me... So now you can see a graphical representation of the padding. And that's how I make everything line up, because you see even on the items that don't have anything in the list, I still pad those amount of characters. No. And if you were to install, well, there, let me repeat the question. Can I install Visual Studio Beta 11? Does it affect the project for homework submissions? The answer is no. But if it breaks, blue screens your computer, deletes everything on your hard drive, and hacks into your email account, I am not responsible. Digital demigod? God? Wait, what?
Well, that kind of defeats the object of putting it in there.
Oh, what?
Never mind.
What? Hello?
What's going on? Nelson?
Hello?
Nelson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you
Yeah.
just fine.
Oh, well, why am I confused then?
I don't know what you're doing. You're confusing me, and I was just being quiet.
Oh, well, no, I got a comment about somebody apparently sent me a PM. And so
Okay.
I'm looking at that. Everything. I mean, I don't know.
Problem?
So no, it's not a problem. Someone had a programming question, but I think I'm not sure if I answered it or not, but I'm just wondering if he's here. Digital demigod?
Let's see. Nope. And over here. Nope. That's Matt.
Okay.
Matt LaBelle.
Well,
He's not with us.
He has an almost entire program. Okay, it looks like the problem that he got stuck up or caught up on was the determining which column a guest should go into.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to go over that or...
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, didn't we say we were going to cover homework on Wednesday nights? Or not Wednesday nights, but I mean, just whenever we did the Open office hours? Didn't we say that, Gavin?
Yeah. But the bit that Dee Dee mentioned well, it looked like in the PM to me he was having a problem with was actually comparing the random to the
I mean,
guess.
I say we go ahead and actually do the homework, and for those that don't want to see this, then just avoid it. Obviously try to do this yourself. Don't just copy what Nelson does. But
Actually, I'm not surprised Demigod's not here because in the message he did say that he refuses to cheat and he has.
No, that's
he's been avoiding discussing it or looking at anyone else, which is good of him.
Yeah, no, that's very cool because that's how you'll really get this stuff. But or if you're just really having trouble and you want to watch Nelson do it, but don't copy him, and then when you sit back down at the drawing board, see if you can reproduce from memory what you saw, and ask questions as Nelson puts it together now. But I do like the idea of during open office hours us going over the homework so that people can review what we were looking for.
Okay. All right, so you just want me to see about writing it up?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty. So we're first going to start off with our random, and our random is going to give us the goal number. I do want to point out somebody did actually point out that. Hold on. Just going to start inclusive lower bound, exclusive upper bound. So it is 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody pointed out that this was an exclusive upper bound. If you guys just followed what I did, that's fine. I did 999, but 1,000 is actually more appropriate because if you were to do 99999 or 999, 999 would never be guessed. A question Gav, should they submit what they have before we go over it?
No, I've updated the threads in the forum. If you're still seeing today being the due date, you need to refresh the page.
But no, you don't need to submit it before it's gone over. So let's take a look
No,
at
I've
this.
changed the date till tomorrow.
Cool.
Oh, Forum said please don't delete trying to copy my earlier code.
Oh.
I didn't catch that. Which part do you need copied? Forum. Oh, homework sounds better. Okay. Okay, so we get our goal number and we enter the program. And the program is pretty much just going to be a while true loop that'll be broken out of eventually. So the first thing we need to do is, you know what? I'm going to copy my old code. Or not, at least I'm going to copy the header.
Yeah, just the header.
I don't want to type that out again.
Copying and pasting, unheard of.
If you look back far enough, you'll see a C++ implementation on the forums that I posted a very, very long time ago.
Oh.
Okay, so then we want to get our guesses. So basically, to store the guesses, I'm going to have 3 lists of integers. I believe it's going to be 15, Wolf Nightly. I'm not sure. I guess I can count for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17. All right, so we have 3 columns. Now let's go ahead and print them out. So let's say int max column length equals not close column dot length or count. If close close column dot count is greater than max column length, then max column length equals close column dot count. If hang in there column dot count is greater than max column length, then hang in there or max column length equals hang in there column dot count. So then I'm going to go ahead and enter the for loop to print out every of the individual rows. So for int I equals 0, I smaller than max column length, increment I. Let's go ahead and pull out our not close, which will be by default 1, 2, 3 spaces. Our close, which will be by default 3 spaces, and our hang in there, which will be by default 3 spaces. Then we'll say if I is smaller than not close column dot count, then not close equals not close column at I, and do that 3 times. Oh yeah, dot toString, of course, because we're converting from an integer to a string. And then we'll say derp. We'll say close column, and we'll say hang in there column. Okay, so now we have all of our stuff. So now I can simply do a console.writeLine. It's going to go ahead and start off with a pipe, 2 spaces for padding, followed by not close, followed by 3 minus however many things there are here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's going to be 3 minus 13, which is 10, or 13 minus 3, whichever way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's how much padding we need, plus 2 more, plus a pipe, plus 2 more, plus a close, followed by this exact sequence of characters, and then plus a hang in there, followed by that exact same sequence of characters, unless I'm wrong.
I'm not sure on your addition for close and hang in there.
You're not sure of what?
The number of spaces you add needs to change, doesn't it? Because not close, close, and hang in there have got different numbers of characters.
No, they're still fixed. Each one of these columns are a fixed width. They're the same width for each one of these columns. Is that the question? Or is that the comment? Or am I confused? You're confusing me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, they're fixed spaces, but you've got more written characters in hang in there and fewer in close. So the number of spaces you add needs to change to compensate. Down at the bottom, the last 2 lines of proper you've got the same number of spaces in each of those 3 lines.
Oh yeah, but these are going to be 3-digit numbers.
Yeah, they're variables.
Regardless of
No, not close plus and then a load of spaces. Close plus a load of spaces, hang in there plus a load of spaces. Those a load of spaces are all the same length. They don't compensate for the difference in length between not close, close, and hang in there being different lengthed words. It's all right if you carry on as it is, and you'll see what I mean.
Okay.
Because it won't line up.
Lines up now.
Now, what was that about not lining up, Gavin? Gavin?
Oh, I'm muted again. No, sorry, I realised my mistake.
Okay.
Um,
Alrighty, so then I'll just go ahead and add that. Okay, so now that the UI is being presented to the user, we can go into the next step, which is to get a guess and assign the guess to a particular column. So I'm going to go ahead and say console write. That should be fine. And then I can go ahead and say if not int.try parse console read line. And I remember somebody asked to go over try parse again. I'll go over it once we go over the code. All right. So, our guess is smaller than 100 or guess is larger than 99. Alrighty, so now that we have valid input, we can go ahead and do some stuff with it. And that's going to be determining which one of these columns it should go in. So the first step, I think, would be to establish if any of the numbers line up with, well, the first thing to do is to see if they actually guess the number. So we can say if guess is equivalent to goal, then we can say console write line U1. And actually give me a sec because I'm not going to enter int. I'm going to increment the number of guesses on every iteration of the loop. And then I'm simply going to, well, break. Why not? Because then after the end of the loop, I can go ahead and say console write line U1, or you guessed goal in number of guesses, console read key. Okay, so now we have that scenario figured out. We need to finally figure out what. We need to set number of guesses to start at 1. Yeah, I guess that would make more sense. I don't like wind indices though, so I don't. Yeah. Alrighty. So first step is to figure out if it should go in the hang in there column. So to do that, we can simply do a for loop. So for, and then actually, that brings up a good point. I'm going to go ahead and, to make things very easy, I'm going to go ahead and say int goal, or I'm going to keep goal as a string. There's no reason not to keep goal as a string at this point, really. And then I'm going to keep guess as a string. I'm still going to, see, this is going to be kind of confusing the way I'm doing this, but watch this.
Are you still going to use int.parse for validation purposes, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still parsing it out, and I'm still checking to see if it's within those two constraints, but I'm basically just going to use guess as a string, because that's just a whole lot easier to deal with the kind of comparisons we're about to do. So the first thing I'm going to say is for int I equals 0, I is smaller than 3, I plus plus, and then we can say if guess I equals goal I, then we can do a few things. We can say hang in there column dot add guess found. Actually, guess number, because our guesses are lists of ints. Doesn't really matter at this point. Identify column equals true, and then break. Then we can say if not identified column Then we can go ahead and we know that they're not in the hang in there column. So let's go ahead and identify if any of the character, or any of the, well, in this case, characters, are present in both guess and the goal. So we will enter two loops. I equals 0, I smaller than 3, I plus plus. Then we'll immediately enter another loop. J equals 0, J smaller than 3, J plus plus. And then we can say if guess I equals goal J, then add it to the close column. Say that we identified the column, break, and then at the end of this for each loop, say if we've identified the column, simply break. Finally, all the way at the end of this, if we have not yet identified the column, we know it's going to go in the not closed column. So at this point, the code should work. Yeah, that looks gross. Or throw an exception. Either one's acceptable. Oh no, it's just I don't have the. I have that stupid read key right there, which I don't need. I only need a read key if I present something back to the user. Okay, so let's guess 1, 2, 3, and let's add in the console.clear because I forgot that as well. Oh, great. Which level of nesting am I adding it into? This is why I don't like indentation and nesting, or that much in a single method. Methods should be small. Okay, 1, 2, 3 isn't close, so we can go 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6 is close. Then we can go 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9 is hang in there. So let's go ahead and do, I don't know, 4, 4, 4. Okay, well that actually wasn't very helpful. Let's do 1, 4, 1. 1, 4, 1 is close. We know the 4 is in the last digit. So then let's go ahead and do, why can't I think today?
984.
984. So 984. Well, yeah, that's. Yeah, now I don't know if the 984 though was. So let's just do 911. Okay, so it's on 8. So we know that so let's do 711. Okay, so we know the 8 and the 4. The last two digits are 8 and 4. So let's go ahead and figure out the first digit,
6,
which can't be 6. Oh, it could be 6.
Can be 6.
Yay!
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 Yay.
Yay!
Yay!
There was something in the code. Something made me go back down. Something made me think of something. You guessed a number of guesses. Number of guesses was that.
Oh, that's not going to work. I don't care that much, really. I guess I could just do
I
that.
think.
Me neither. Okay, so here's my code.
Oh yes. One thing I thought might be handy would be to show how you could quickly add in, get it to tell you what number you're searching for debugging purposes.
Yeah, well, hey, look how good I am at this game.
Yes. But at least you know, if it had told you it was not close, then you'd have had a problem.
Oh, it only shows that in the first iteration, obviously. Okay, so 999 should be in hang in there. 622 should be in close. 222 should be in not close. Okay, so it's working properly. And then if you could 961, guessed it in 6 guesses. Okay. So yeah, that's a basic hang in there game. A little bit gnarly because of the lack of methods and separation and stuff. Normally, I would never create a method this long. Well, I won't say never, but I'll avoid it to the best of my ability, and I would also avoid going this deep in indentation. You saw how I myself was getting lost a few times because of the level of indentation. So. But it is functional.
While you're talking about indentation, you can point out that if you hover, or rather, if you put your cursor to the outside of some curly braces, it will show you the matching pair.
Yeah.
And if you go right the way down to the bottom of the screen, bottom of the thing, oh man, yeah, no, that's obviously a reset upper thing. Mine tells me at the top of the page what the name of the matching.
Yeah, that's a resharper thing.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so questions. Anybody needs to copy no, nobody needs to copy.
Nobody needs to copy that, but questions.
Make it go away.
Yep, there's the homework. If you want to copy it, you can. Okay, so yes, I am looking for questions, Wolf Nightly. Well, I'll look at the question panel now. No, the numbers themselves aren't being stored in strings. They're being stored in integers, but I turn them into strings for comparison purposes. Yeah. If I can find the button. How do I there we go. You should be unmuted.
Yeah. Can you go back to your code?
Yeah. Which part?
Now you're saying for comparison purposes you turn them back to string. Is that also for formatting?
The formatting, yes. Well, kind of. Yes, in this particular case, I'm not using the string.pad method. The only reason I turn them into strings for formatting purposes is I want by default these things to be empty strings.
Uh-huh.
And then only if the current row that we're looking at has a valid item within the list we're looking at, only then will it set the row to the number. And then I have to convert the number to a string.
Wait, could you run the program real quick?
Yeah.
I think you've solved now. No. Okay, just for your next guess. Okay, start with 0.
Let's start with 0.
Yeah.
0. Like that?
Or no. Well, yeah, that would be fine, I guess.
No, that'll fail out, but he's got a point. If you enter 096, for instance, that could be the answer.
No, it can't be the answer.
Oh, no, it can't be the answer. You're right.
It can't be. It's because it's between 100, isn't it?
Yeah, I generate the guess with using an integer, then I convert it into a string.
Oh, I guess it's a non-issue. See, that for mine, what I realized is because I wasn't using strings because you told me I shouldn't. But what happens with mine is that if I enter 0, like 046, then the 0 goes away and it just becomes 46, which screws up my formatting because my formatting is relying on there being 3 digits.
Right. In that case, you could use the pad method if you wanted to.
Right.
Did you see me using the pad method earlier where you just did? dot like pad right, and then you specify a width. So in this case, it'll be 3.
And padding, that just means that after whatever you put there, there's going to be padding up into that space. So
Yep.
so if you put like if you could enter 4 numbers, then the padding would go ahead and add 1 less padding.
Yeah. It's going to just make it so that that string is of the length that you specified when you invoked padding. So if you specified 4, it'll make sure that that string is 4 characters long.
And the pad right is all you need for that?
Yep. And then you can also optionally specify a padding character. So the character that it inserts, I believe the default's a space. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is.
Probably is. Okay.
Did you want to see my homework or?
Have you handed it in?
Yeah, I've handed it in.
Well,
If you had any questions,
Yeah. I mean, if there's questions about it.
That was my main question. So I assume that it's still correct. If you can do that, since I guess that's not even a possible outcome. I mean, if I have 0, if that screws up the formatting, that doesn't.
yeah. Well, if you were generating your random numbers using this code, there's no way for there to be anything that starts with that's led by zeros.
Yep, but the user on my end can still enter 0 first.
Yeah, in that case, I would do kind of what I did right here, where I converted it into a number, and then I checked to see if the number is between 100 and 999.
Yeah, that was cool. I saw that. That's yeah. So I could add something like that. What I'm saying is, do I need to turn in the homework again, or am I fine if it's a working program without?
That's up to Gab.
no, that's fine. Don't
sounds fine to
submit
me.
it again. I'll mark when you did.
But I will fix it, since basically homework 4 is the same thing, only
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
better. I'll just make those corrections.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right.
Okay, so
I'm intrigued by Ken's last question.
yeah.
I'm trying to think how you do that.
Use modules to determine what digit came from number entered. What digit came from number entered? I mean, if you wanted to toss the code, I mean, have you already submitted your homework, Ken? Do you mind if we pull it up?
Actually, it was 2 different. Ken, there was somebody else asking if they could share the screen. By the way, Nelson, or did you?
This who's?
It was Janusz asking if he can show you his version.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying.
No, I thought you'd read that as one post. You see.
So who are we looking at first? I mean, I guess we can just toss up Ken Dirksen, or if you just go ahead and could you send me his file through some means?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Hang on. I need to get at it. Well, I tell you, we're coming off on an hour now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we are. This is a perfect time for a break, actually. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. And then when we come back from the break, we will continue with this. And I'll give you, Gavin, a few minutes to find it and everything. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we're on break, guys, and pausing video now. Resume. We're back from break and
So,
time to get going. So Jesse's cat apparently jumped on his keyboard.
yeah, that's what I was laughing at. Sorry.
Okay, so question time. We were going to jump over to reading Ken's code. I have that on my computer now.
Sweet.
But I wonder if we should answer questions about what we have already before we start looking at other people's implementation.
Yeah, I think there's probably been a few people who might have done it that way. Funny enough, that's the way I would have done it.
You mean
the way Ken did it is the way I would have done it if I was generating one 3-digit number. As it happens, I would have generated separate numbers. But
So then let's go ahead and.
Why are there a bunch of queues?
And oh no, wait, queues?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, but
we are recording, aren't we?
yes, we are recording, and I just wanted to say to Darth Greg real quick. Yeah, I love Q as well. Just wanted to say, and it was awesome watching a Pony episode where the bad guy was Q. So I heard Q the entire time, which made the episode 100 times more cool. Anyways,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And the awesome actor, he did show up at BronyCon too, or is going to BronyCon, New York, I believe. Okay, so Gavin, the RAR you sent me, I have no idea which one.
That was not for the class. That was why I waited till the break to send it to you.
Oh, I thought you were sending me the.
No, Ken posted his in the questions
Over in the question
panel,
panel, you'll see where Ken posted all the code.
Okay.
for the bit that was relevant. It was just what he meant by using modulus to.
Let me read through that real quickly.
And while
Yeah. Yeah, that works.
And while you're looking through it, Jesse asked, "What was the name of the pony show?"
It's brace yourself. It's
My Little Pony.
No, it's more specifically, it's My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the 2010 reboot.
Because this was on when I was a kid.
Yes,
Anyway.
way back in the day.
Okay, so how do you make sure that the guest's not added to the close list when it's hang in their number? Well, that's a good question. The way I did it was I have a Boolean called identified column, and I initially set it to false. And then I check to see if it goes in the hang in there column first, because the hang in there column is the most specific one that it can go in. And if it does go in the hang in there column, I set identified column to true, and I end the loop. Immediately after this if statement, I have another if statement saying if we haven't identified the column yet, meaning if this had never executed, then we know it's either close or not close. So then I get the Cartesian product to check to see if it's close. And at this point, I don't have to worry because I know that if I equals j, this is not going to execute, period. It can't, because if I equals j and this is true, that means it's a hang in there item, which I already checked for right here. So logically, I know that the only way to get into this loop is if I equals j, guess and goal of I and of j will never be true. So then I know that if once I do a double loop, if I do find something that matches, that it goes in the close column. And then I set the identified column to true again. Finally, on line 116, if identified column has not been set to true yet, I know that it's not hang in there or close, so I add it to the not close column. Did that answer your question, Christian? All right, sweet. So did somebody want to jump? I see Ken has left. So I guess there was another person that wanted to jump over to their screen. Okay, so pronounce that name for me, Gavin.
Janusz.
Ganesh. So are you ready to switch over? Alrighty. Ta-da. And this will also enable your microphone if you have one. Or not. There you go. Now you're unmuted. Alrighty, so then so you only give them 999 chances? Or am I reading the code wrong?
That's on easy.
Okay, okay, so you get that, then you add it to the guest list. Okay, so if you scroll down a little bit, yeah, your formatting is a little messed up. I'm kind of getting confused. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, delete the last curly on line 93 and re-add it in. That'll go ahead and get Visual Studio to resettle your formatting for you.
And hit enter.
Yep. And so if you scroll up, now if you go back down a little bit, it should be a little bit clearer what's going on. So you add it to the guest list, and then you loop through every item in the guest list, and then you loop from 1 to 8. Why am I getting confused? Do you ever add any item to the not close collection? So I take it that this doesn't work properly, right? Unless I'm absolutely missing something. You can like type in the...
I don't understand the for each K in guest list.
Guest list is what he adds all the guesses to.
Yeah.
Well, let him run it and see what happens. All right, because if you hover over the guest list collection here in the debugger, you'll see that it only has one item in it. So there's no way for it to get an item at, and if you hover over count, count's probably 1 at this point. So that's not going to work properly. Even if you change count to 0, it's still counting from 0 to 9, or sorry, 0 to 8. And because you're not constraining it in any way to the size of the guest list, there's no way for it to work properly. I'm kind of confused as to why you have a 9 there. I mean, maybe if you explained your logic. It's kind of difficult without a mic, though, unfortunately. But
you'll need to hit Shift F5 to get out of debugging mode.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hey.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me. I was talking to you all the time.
Oh, no. Oh.
Pardon.
All right. So I was just kind of confused as to the logic that you have there. As far as you're looping over echo, 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 echo. You're looping over every guess, and then you're looping from 1 to 8.
Yeah, I wondered first, I think that's something that's left over from another try that I made where I subtracted 100 every time I went through that loop. And then I talked to someone and he said I could also divide it by 100, and that makes sense to get the first digit. But after all, I'm so confused. I've been sitting with this for many hours, and I don't know, there are so many loops, and yeah, it doesn't make any sense for me anymore.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it might make sense to, start again and think about the logic as far as, 2 distinct steps. Your first step is to print the output based off those 3 lists, and your second step is to identify if your guess should go in one of the 3 specific lists, if that sort of makes sense.
Yes, yeah, I see. Yeah, so you would delete it and then just give it a new try?
Yeah, and just keep in mind the code that was up on the screen earlier, at least not so much the code itself, just the structure, where you have 2 things. You have printing the columns, and then you have the code that determines if a guess should go in one of the columns. That makes sense.
That makes sense, totally. All right, I will do that. Thank you for looking at it.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be more, but yeah, hopefully, if you have any specific questions as you're reworking it, you're more than welcome to post them here or get a hold of one of us on PM.
Yeah, I think I'll do it tomorrow morning or something. It's late here now. It's 2:30.
No, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah, I thank you. Yeah.
Nelson?
Hello?
Okay, just making sure all is going okay. All right, good, you're back.
Wolf Knightley asks, when we do homework 4, should we update our code to be more like yours, or should we keep it more like our own week 3 homework? Keep it. If your own homework 3 works without any bugs, then just keep it like that.
Exactly.
Just the way that you came up with the code yourself. Because there's always a million different ways to write code. So. Ooh, int.try parse. Thanks for reminding me. So the question was earlier just to do a quick review about what int.try parse works, or how it works, and what the syntax looks like. So int.parse is a method that takes in a string and returns an integer. So if we did int.parse console read line, then we get an integer back instead of a string.
Right.
Right. Why can't I type? Okay, so we can type in a number, and we get the number back, but in the form of a string of an integer. So int.parse takes in a string, and it returns an integer that represents the whatever numeric string was entered. Now, the problem with int.parse is that if I were to put in something that can't be converted into an integer, I would get a runtime error, specifically a format exception. So there is another method we could use called int.tryparse. And int.tryparse is a little bit different than int.parse. We start by saying if, or we can just do this, I guess, for now. We can say success equals int.tryparse console read line out input. Then we can say if success, show them this. Otherwise, say you didn't enter a number. So now when we type in a normal number, we get what we expected, just like before. But now when we type in garbage, we get a message saying that we didn't enter a number. So the int.tryparse method is interesting because it doesn't return an integer like int.parse does. It returns a Boolean, and the Boolean is going to indicate whether or not the parsing was successful. If the Boolean it returns is true, that means that it was successful in parsing the string. If what it returned was false, that means it was not successful in parsing the string. Now, as far as where the output, where the actual input, or where the actual int gets returned from, it's going to be this output parameter that we specify here with out input. And the reason we have this out keyword right here is just because the signature requires us to. The signature requires us to place this out modifier on it. And this must be a variable. It cannot be a value. If I try to pass in a value as with an output modifier, you'll get an error. A refer out argument must be assignable an assignable value. So what's an assignable value? Or what?
I was just going to say it has to be declared in advance of using it.
Yep, there's no way to, so if it needs to be a variable that's already in scope, and if I didn't have this variable in scope, it would throw an error. If I specified it afterwards, well, obviously that would be an error too. If I specified it inline, well, that's not even valid C#, and pointless because we need access to this int variable anyway. So the only way to properly use this code is to say out, followed by the variable that is in scope and of type int. So tryparse is just a bool always. It'll always return a Boolean value from itself, but it'll also set the output parameter that you passed, or the output argument you passed into whatever it successfully parsed it as. How do you... Greg, did that answer your question, or are there any more specific things about int.tryparse that are confusing? All right, sweet. Okay, so how do you see if you have a number in the right place value? Well, in the code that I wrote, I ended up using a string for that sort of comparison, where with a string, you can index a string. And when you index a string, you get returned to you a character. And you can take that character and compare it to other characters. So I'm not actually doing any numerical computation here. I'm simply comparing characters. So in this case, I have 2 steps, three steps, I guess you could say. The first step is I loop from 0 to 3, and then I check to see if any of those items within that loop match the right place value. So if guess.i and goal.i equal each other, we know that this digit that we're comparing is at the right place value. If that's true, I add it to the proper column, I specify that I've identified the column, and I discontinue this loop. If that never becomes true then I do a nested loop, where I loop from 0 to 3, and then I loop from 0 to 3 again. And then I check to see if any of the numbers maybe weren't in the right place value, but maybe they were contained elsewhere within the guess. And that's what I do there. Yeah, you can't index an int. So what I mean by indexing a string, so we have a string input, and let's say this is 423, and we can go ahead and say console.writeLine input at, and we can specify an index like 2, and that's going to return 4. So that's how you index a string. Like other people were saying, you can't index a integer. That's impossible.
Yeah, because you can basically look at a string as being an array of chars.
Yep. I mean, that's what it
That's what it is.
is.
I thought it literally was, but I wasn't that sure that I was going to say that. But you can certainly. There's a P and an H in blasphemy.
There's a what?
Just correcting some spelling.
Ah. Ryan, so are you saying I made it more confusing, or are you doing a little bit better now, or worse, or how are you? Okay, so do you need to know how to get out of a three-digit number, do you need to know how to get a specific number out of that three-digit number? Or are you more confused about the logic that I use to identify if something should go in the hang in there column versus the close versus the not close? Oh, okay. But are you on the right track, or is there anything more that we can go over? Well, at a very fundamental level, if you have them all separated, so if we have place value 1 or guess digit 1 equals 4, guess digit 2 equals 2, guess digit 3 equals 9. Sure. You are Ryan, and you are right there. Hey.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey. Okay, so I just think I just made it way more confusing than I was trying to do. Can you see it?
Yeah. Well, with using a for each loop, you're using a nested for each loop. You're really only going to be able to compare. Well, actually, the first thing is to make this even easier. I'm noticing that you're enumerating over all of the guesses right here. But what if you performed the computation that identified which column it goes in? What if you perform that computation elsewhere? And instead, you had 3 lists of integers that just get filled up whenever a user makes a guess. So that will make the presentation code very, very straightforward, separating the UI concern from the actual logic.
Okay.
Because I think right now, one of the reasons why you might be getting very confused is that you're trying to present, it looks like you're trying to present the guesses at the same time that you're doing the computation of determining which column a guess goes in. But that's going to be very confusing to do. So if you think about it, what would be the ideal data structure for your guesses to be contained in so that presentation is as easy as possible?
Right. I was separating them into lists at one point, but then I was doing it at the time that it was putting in the whole grid,
Mhm.
rather than doing it as they put the guess in. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, so you said that you started off having three lists that you computed which list the guest went into during the loop execution, and then now I'm confused.
Right. Right. I was having them put the guess in, and then it would check if it was a 3-digit, and then it would store it in a list, and then I'd go through and take it from that list and separate it into 3 new lists.
Yeah. Well, alternatively, do they need to be 3 new lists? I mean, if you think about it, you don't even need to keep track of all the guesses. Like, for example, the collection you have to find on line 18, you don't need to keep track of all the guesses because you can choose which one of the 3 lists your guest goes in when they make the guess, rather than having to do what you're doing right there with looping all over the guesses, because that's just going to complicate your code a little bit. By recreating each one of the 3 lists every iteration is going to very much complicate your code.
Okay. Okay.
Breathe deep.
Yeah.
I do find that learning this stuff is not a smooth slope. It's very much a succession of small eureka moments,
That's true.
followed by a lot of banging your head against the wall. But you know what I mean. It's not a particularly smooth slope up. You'll hit something that will stop you, and then just be stuck on it for ages, and then just find it a walkover thereafter.
Been working on this for almost 48 hours straight. And just, I don't know how many times I've restarted.
Oh, no. Hang on one second. Meta, you don't feel as bad now, do you?
Thanks.
I used to dream of 48 hours straight.
I know it's
Oh,
I know
when
it's
I were a
challenging
lad.
stuff. That's why I wanted to let everybody know last week. No one's going to fail because of homework. I want people to turn something in. I want them to give a very serious attempt, because the more you play with this, even if you are slamming your head against the desk, the more it's going to slowly become more and more clear. And don't be surprised to just beat your head against the desk for 3 or 4 hours and then get up and go to bed at night, wake up the next morning, and just suddenly have the answer as if it was easy. That happens all the time.
But
This is quite a good, this is a good example of why what we're covering this week in terms of methods and why they are useful. Because you've got so much going on in this one method.
Well, I know how to use methods.
Not you personally, but just this whole class is an example of. But until this lesson, we haven't covered, breaking stuff out, and you end up with these incredibly long methods that when you do have problems, it's very difficult to find what's going on where and such like.
Well, I was trying to get a better understanding of the loops, but because I know how to use methods, which I guess might have been easier.
But
well,
Go ahead. Yeah.
but okay. So just think about, in your head, in English, how would you go about structuring this program? Well, not in your head, out loud in English, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I'd first check to see if any digits were right in the first place, and then check their place, and then if none of them were correct, they'd be not close.
Okay. So on line 57 through 72, you want to reconstruct the 3 column lists on every time? Because I think the nested for each loops might be throwing you off a little bit just because they're big and
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm just gonna start that over and just try and rewrite that all. Right? That would be the best method.
yeah.
Just start over?
Well, think about what I mean. Not all of this code needs to go away, but think about, like, for example, imagine if line 74. Imagine instead of just adding last guess into the my guesses collection, imagine if you were able to determine which column it should go in at line 74. Obviously, it's not going to be a single line of code, but at that location, then figure out where last guess should go. Should last guess go in the close column, the not close column, or the hang in there column, and then add it to the appropriate list. You have the list already defined up on the top of your method.
Yeah.
So the my guesses collection is unnecessary because at that point you can then determine which column it should go into without having to loop over all of the guesses every single iteration of the loop.
Okay.
That so yeah, you could even nuke 55 through 70 and just start that part over. And then, so now think about logically, what would you need to do to determine if last guess should go in a particular column? What would like the first step think or be? Do you think?
What would be to find if any of the digits were right?
Okay. Well, though, define right. Are you referring to right as in any of the digits equal any of the digits in the guess, or do you mean any of the digits equal any of the digits in the guess and they're in the right place value?
If they're close.
Okay. So how would you identify that? And you were close with your nested for each loops, not the overarching for each loop, but with the nested for each loops, you were close. Not with the ifs inside, but
Yeah.
well, the first if would be, I mean, think about the condition in which the first if would execute. Second if isn't going to work properly because there's no way that you're going to be able to successfully determine if something should be in the hang in there or should be in the close inside the same set of for each loops. You're going to have to determine if something is in the hang in there column and if something is in the close column in two different loops or two different groups of loops.
Okay. So would it be easier to flip it around and check the hang in there first?
Think about the implications of checking the hang in there first before the close. Because if you think about rectangles and squares. A square is a rectangle. A rectangle isn't necessarily a square. A hang in there is a close. A close isn't necessarily a hang in there.
Okay.
Or, yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So think about the order in which you would have to decide if something is close or if something isn't hang in there. Because the order in this case will matter very much because of the fact that all hang in there's are valid closes. But not all closes are valid hang in there's.
Okay. Oh, your charger. All right. Well, I'll work on this for a little bit, and then
Alrighty.
if you want to answer another question.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Words.
continue having trouble, don't be shy to give us a shout.
Oh,
Yeah.
I will.
Okay, good.
I'll be on here.
Awesome.
All right. David is asking to look at his screen.
Okay.
He says he almost got it working. What do you want, like a 40-inch monitor?
Yeah, it's a 30-inch.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Does it show properly or?
Go ahead and use your scroll wheel and make your text a little bit larger. So just control and roll up. There you go. Perfect. You can read that now, Nelson, can't
Like
you?
this?
Yes. Is that
Yeah, I can read that.
okay?
Okay. So what's not working properly?
Okay, I will test. Okay, this is the result it's supposed to give. Because sometimes it works. I created like a counter for the not close, and a counter for the hanging there. And there's an if statement that check. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes there's a number.
Is it saying that there are 6 things in the? I couldn't read that one.
Yeah, it was.
I think it's this part that is not working. But it might be also my for loop where I check here.
Okay. So okay. So
So
now I'm going to.
here. I'm using a while loop. Then there is initialize a counter for the not close hanging there. And here I checked in the for loop. I checked to increment the counter for the close. Not close. I want to count how many times there is a match of not close, or hanging there. And later, after the for loop, I check if the counter hanging there is bigger than the counter close. I add the guess to the list. I do the same thing for the counter close. But something is not working, and I'm not sure why.
Okay, so if you scroll down to your, I noticed as you were typing in guesses, I didn't see all of them appear. Like if you run your program again. Yeah, it's not displaying in any of the.
This one should have been closed, but it is not showing.
Yeah, but not closed should have. I mean, I don't. You've only made one guess, but it's showing like 5.
So this one is working. The hanging there is working. Sometimes the not close is working, but the close sometimes doesn't work.
Okay, so not close works. So there. So then, what happens on the? So the close is the only column that's not working, correct?
Sometimes it's working. Let's start again. So this one detect one close. It should have go in this. It's not showing.
Right.
So one of the things that might help Nelson make things easier for you is if he gives you control, so you can scroll to the parts you want to look at easily.
Yeah, I'm just trying. Yeah, so if you
Yeah, it's over in the little webinar panel.
I need to click on the webinar panel.
Yeah, and there's a place to give control.
Okay. To who? I give the control to who?
Nelson, to, yeah. Nelson, you want to test, make sure you got that?
yeah, looks like I do.
Okay.
Alrighty, lag. Let's see. Okay, so you initialize that stuff. So num guess string is the guess. Num random string is the random number. Verify the length. That's all good. Exit condition is good. So you have these count. Oh, it's going too far. You have these counters, and the counters are used. So check matching.
To-
He's just going to debug out.
They are used to detect
Yeah, if they're close, not close.
how many times each variable in the loop. Because it's going like through 9 times for the tree number. So
okay.
I wanted with those counter. At first, I placed those lists inside the counter, but it was not working because I was getting 9 times, sometimes they're not close. So I used the counter to be able to do the if after the loop. I wanted to check after the loop.
Okay. I think I see your problem. I want to try one thing. Well, no, hold on. Actually, that should. Oh, the gutter is so tiny. Did I click it? Oh, there we go. Oh, I thought that. Derp. Okay, so now I'm going to lean all the way into my monitor. Actually, hold on. Let me move the webinar over to a monitor that has a good resolution. So this should be a little bit easier for me to see. Yep. Okay, so that's 102. So then we want 244, and we do get a count close, so that is working at least as far as that goes. And then we should get a few. Should get a few count not close, but we shouldn't get any hang in there's. Okay, so all your counting is correct. Stupid lag. Okay, so all of the counting looks like it's correct. So when I get to the end, we have count close is 1, not close is 5, hang in there is 0. So what you want to do is, well, see, here's the thing. If anything was a hang in there, then you want to make it a hang in, put it in the hang in there column. If anything is, okay, so if any item inside of the guess triggered hang in there being more than 1 or more than 0, then you want to count that as a hang in there item. If anything was a close, then you want to count it as a close item. See, right now you're comparing count close to count not close. But see, here's the thing: the prompt, I don't know, I'm not even, really, okay, I don't know where.
It's not the same.
Okay, so I can scroll. Oh, okay, it scrolled. Nope, there it is. And we stopped. Okay, so the goal is, let me go ahead and stop debugging. Okay. see, this is what you have, these counters which work great, but the only issue with them is you're comparing them to the other counters. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many close items there are. It just matters if there's a single hang in there digit. If there's one hang in there digit, you what?
I should place 1 instead of close.
Yep. So if you, you should 0. Well, there's 2 ways you could do it. You could either do greater than 0 or greater or equal to 1. But yeah, basically that's what you want. And then you want to do the same thing here. You want to say if there are anything that are close, then we want it to be 0, as long as there's nothing in hang in there. So this part is correct. And then this part is correct as well, because this is saying if there's nothing in hang in there and nothing in close, then it has to be not close, period. So now if you run this, it should give you the output that you're looking for. So if we put in 55 or 449, it goes in close.
Okay.
If we put in 444, it goes not close. If we put in 999, if we cause an exception. Well, you don't have any input validation.
It was just 29.
Anyway, so do you understand how?
Yeah, it was just the logic.
You what?
Yeah, it was just the logic that was not good.
Yeah, the logic.
Yeah, and everything else was working just fine. It was just that last part was you shouldn't have been comparing against each other, because it doesn't matter. If there's one thing in hang in there, then it's good.
Okay. Do you want me to submit it again for tomorrow?
Submit it again for tomorrow?
Did you submit already?
Yeah, I already submit.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead and submit it again now that this is functioning right.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah, but other than that, looked good. Well, the formatting, but that's less of an issue.
Yeah, how do I stop the screening?
Oh, yeah. Let me, there we go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, questions. Okay,
Janusz
so
did ask, are we going to put tonight's help class online? I assume so.
Yeah, it's going to go online. I'll try to get it up tonight.
all right. Wolf Knightley asked to, or was that Wolf? Yeah, that was. If we want to jump over to Wolf Knightley, look at his code. He has to in the questions panel.
Yeah, just go ahead and switch on over.
Oh, my stress ball is leaking. Oh, that's just.
Well, actually, it's we've just it's 5 past something there, 2 here.
You need a quick break.
I don't need one. I was just giving you a time check, because I know it's easy to get lost.
Gotcha. Nelson?
I can do it with a cigarette and washing my hands off. Ugh.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. Stretch your legs, and then when we get back, we'll continue. Okay? Resume.
Actually, before you do it.
Pausing. All right, this time we've resumed for real. Continue.
Okay, so I was jumping over to Wolf Knightley.
Yep.
And Wolf Knightley has been jumped over too.
All right. Do you want control?
Yeah, or yeah, just to scroll through it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think my code is a little bloated, and I don't know. I think it's all really functional, but I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of a
It's actually not that.
interesting way to.
Yeah, it's
It's not
you
that.
take out all those
It's not
comments
that.
and all.
Yeah, 176 is it's not that bad. I think mine was what 130. Okay, so random. Yeah, and these comments as well are going to up that as well. Random number list. So you get a random number. Okay, so you add each one of the digits individually to the random number list.
Yeah, exactly. So I can compare later.
Yeah, and you could. Yeah, that definitely does work. That works.
I don't remember how you did it. Is there a better way to do that?
Well, the comparison you could have converted it into a string like you did right here, then access it by index. I can't remember that comment that I made about not using or avoiding strings, because for comparison, it's definitely preferable. For keeping the guesses, I would use an integer for a variety of reasons. One of which to keep things clear to whoever's reading the code that you're indeed looping or storing integers in there. But as far as having to pull out the characters of the random number list, this definitely does work. Don't get me wrong. But you could have used a string for that. So
wait, you could just go back up.
yeah.
Like so you're saying I wouldn't have a need for that. Oh, I didn't even use it. Oh yeah, I don't. Didn't need a try parse anywhere, which I didn't use. Wait.
Well, you wouldn't have needed a try parse because at this point you know that this is just
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't have needed to parse that is what I was trying to get at,
right.
because it would just be a string. So I'd put in.
Yep. So then so you're storing the guesses as well as a list event. Again, it works.
So you would do that in a string?
Well, I wouldn't have this defined up here. I would just do guess.toString at the end, or where you compared it, or even because you really need the integer when you establish the guess. You really need to pull it out to an integer to do validation, but you don't necessarily need it to be continue to be an integer after you validated. Make sure that's a valid int.
Okay, so once it's validated, I think that's actually more how I was doing it, but I might have just misunderstood you as far as not wanting strings. I guess what you wanted is the validation, probably.
Yeah, definitely validation, and I would prefer to store these as integers for a variety of reasons.
And then, could you go up for a second? Just remember. No, but I'm not sure. If you had after you validate, then you could just not you would just use whatever you were the input was that you were validating from, instead of whatever variable you were storing the int in the out int variable.
Yeah, that's how I would go about doing it, just because it's easier to compare as a string, but you need to do the validation.
Uh-huh.
And the validation, the easiest way to do that is simply to try to convert it into an integer. If that fails, you know that they haven't entered a correct guess. And then once it is an integer, you can do a simple comparison as far as, is it less than this or greater than that? In that case, they're out of range.
Right. Yeah, that's more like how I had it. But then I guess I didn't really understand, or you didn't understand what I was saying, or something, and so I changed it.
Yeah, I wish I could remember exactly how that conversation went. But overall, like that's fine. as far as storing it in a list of events, as far as the digits, and you named it properly by saying digits. Because the majority of the time you see a list of events, you think they're going to be a collection of numbers, but by saying
Right.
digits, it makes that a little bit clearer. Well, I do see one problem here in that you don't actually... Okay, you do it down here. Never mind. Yeah, it's a little different than how I had it, but that's all perfectly valid. Right here, instead of doing hit count equals 3, which works, you could do simply, guest number equals if guest number equals random number, instead of doing the hit count equals 3.
Oh yeah, right. Huh.
That would just be a little bit clearer. But other than that, that still works. Yeah, then you just check the booleans.
I don't know why I chose to do the write and keep doing separate lines for that. After I saw yours doing all in one, I was really unsure why I didn't do that myself.
Well, no, that's how code is. I mean, you have a problem, you try to come up with a solution, but the process. Or what?
I think it was about just lining them up, because that way I could line up to make sure that they're the same size. I think that's why now.
Right. But again, though, the process of going through this yourself is very valuable, more so than seeing the code already written. But the process of going through it yourself, succeeding, and then seeing somebody else write it is also very valuable.
What about how I handled the else right there? Is that?
So you have if. Yeah, that definitely works. The way that I had it was, you saw how I had it. I separated each column into 3 strings, and then I decided whether or not to, write 3 empty spaces to the screen. But this works as well. There's not much else I can say about it other than, the way I wrote it, I think was more clear. But without saying that, I don't think that, I think this is the clearest way you could have approached this particular situation without having, aliased out the digits into the string variables at the top, like what I had before, and then printing them out.
Yeah, that was, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have the string, so
right.
I wasn't using strings, so couldn't even think that up. But yeah, I just it seemed like all these the else ones, the else lines, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of repeating code. You have to copy it, and that just seems wrong. But obviously, we're not using methods.
Yeah. If you were using methods, then that would be streamlined. Also, if you had stored all 3 of the columns in a single list, it's funny, that would make the code more complicated, but at the same time shorter. But that's how programming goes, really. But I really wasn't expecting anybody to do that. But no, I don't have anything specific to say other than the
right. And if it's blank, because you were doing string. If it's blank, you would just add 3 digit instead of spaces. I don't know.
Jason, Gavin, you guys have any comments?
No, other than the fact that you did a really good job with formatting. Just talking about the general logic and all, and spacing and all is very easy to read.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you want to see? You want to run it or?
Yeah, sure. Let's see.
That all works fine unless you put 0 or 00 as your first numbers.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, I see where that could cause an issue.
All right. But as you showed, I could have solved that just with not letting it through if it was less than 100.
So it's 8, 9. No, it's 8, 1, 3, 8, 1, 2, 8, 1, 7, 8, 1, 8. This is frustrating. 8, 1 something.
819.
Can't be. See, 899 will appear. Ooh, no, it's 1.
That means 8 isn't the first number.
Yeah, 8 isn't the first number. 8 is probably. See, I used to have a pattern that got. Because I played this game a lot when I wrote it initially. So we have 8, so it's 1, 8. Or is it 1, 1, 8? 1, 8, 1?
981.
It can't be 9 because the 799 is not close.
Ah.
But 9 isn't hang in there. 9's
188. 118.
Oh wait, I'm not sure.
No, 118.
This is entertaining.
Do 955. Just okay, not close at all.
Okay, do
There's no
999, 888,
nine.
777, 666, 555. You just.
Three. So it's 138.
138, yeah.
318. Yay!
Hey, only 35 guesses.
Like that pattern you've got there, Nelson. Works pretty good.
Or you could always just, if you were.
Debugging, looking at your locals.
And you could do this, because it is managed code, obviously. You can always do this. So what is that, 189?
738.
738. See, I can't read.
How did you get 189 from that?
Because I've been seeing one. So 7. Oh, did I break it? Oh, I did break it. Quite literally. 178.
No, not even close.
I can't even remember.
You don't need to. It says in BuzzNet. But anyway, we're kind of straying somewhat. You people are so observant.
Well, see, the problem is I'm looking at this screen in my low resolution screen, and I can't. Oh, okay. But anyway, yeah, I don't see any glaring issues, really. It's pretty straightforward.
All right,
Very good.
cool, thanks.
Okay, so questions, more questions, any questions?
Well, I'll just say to Ryan, after everyone individually, you should have send question to staff. And this applies to anyone who's been made a panelist. Once you've stopped being a panelist, or once you stop talking again, in order to ask questions, you'll need to change the drop-down list just below where you're typing text boxes, and change that back over to send questions to staff.
Florum. I guess we could look at forums. And yes, there will be an ice cream and pony party for everybody who graduates.
Ha! Though ice cream does sound
okay.
mighty good right now.
Who is Florum? Oh, Florin? Is it Florem? Who's Florum?
Florem.
Well, I need Florum's name. Do you have a name for him? In the webinar thing, it doesn't tell us your username. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was that one, but then I noticed there's a discrepancy between the vowels in your name.
And the consonants.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Was looking for the screen. So this is...
Using Windows 8?
yes. I'm trying.
Alrighty, so code. Lag. Lots and lots of lag. Regions, woo. Yeah, I don't personally like regions, but once you get to working with methods, they're not necessary, really.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're going to, with this code, you're going to have to make it a little bit, work on a little bit more to get the different items to appear. Because I think I saw you saying this earlier, where it'll only show you the first row. So when I typed out the stuff earlier, did that make sense as far as how to get this code working?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
It's actually working. I'm filling it with empty spots. The others when you don't have a number in the given list, you get an empty box, something like that. No value given.
okay. That's what's going on. So,
yes. No matter what count is placed, it will show all the numbers and format correctly.
okay.
I was wondering about that. Would it be better to do it like you did, or to fill the list box with the empty spaces?
Well, the thing about code is you definitely want code to be straightforward, and you noticed I thought that this code was wrong before you pointed out down below in the file that these lists get populated with the empty spots. So I would make it so that these lists are individual, because I think that's clearer. The way you have the code, you do have probably fewer lines of code than what I had, but the thing is about clarity. And I was actually honestly confused when I saw line 41, because I wasn't aware. As I was reading the code, I started at the top. I wasn't aware that those lists would be synchronized, in that they would all have the same amount of items in them. So I would change it just because of readability, to make your code easier to read. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. I was trying to avoid the if else, and for the biggest count,
right?
The biggest list.
Yeah, and that's not pretty code. But it's. I mean, Jason, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts was that I'm just now tuning back in because Zach was talking to me about the video system.
Okay.
Sorry.
So as far as the rest of the code, Yeah, that'll works. Yeah, I usually don't put curly braces around if I only have one statement, but the only reason I haven't been doing that is because that is confusing to some people. So, but yeah, I like the formatting so far.
Did I place excessive comments, or is it good?
I was kind of tuning out the comments.
He literally doesn't. He doesn't read them, even if they're there. He doesn't read them.
I mean, I think that if the comments help you or another person might be reading the code, then I would say that they're good. But if this comment weren't here, for example, I would already understand. Even if I hadn't read this code, before or anything like it before, I would kind of get it without having the comments there. I generally don't use comments very often, but that's just kind of an ongoing discussion that we've been having about should you use comments, should you not use comments, and I'm not going to tell anybody not to. But I have my own sort of style as far as commenting goes.
But aren't they ignored by the compiler, by the IDE?
Yeah,
Sorry,
they're ignored by the compiler, but then again, they do. In my eyes, they add visual noise. But I mean, that's just. I mean, yeah, different people use or prefer different things. As far as the logic itself, let's see. Okay. So I understand where you're coming from with that. Yeah, I mean, it looks straightforward. But I do want to point out that you said earlier that you didn't like the repetition of figuring out what the max value is. But on the same token, you do have a lot of repetition with, if the screen will catch up with me.
yes, I know. I revised it for week 4. This was without methods. I tried to do it without methods to limit myself to think it with ifs and without methods.
True. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, there's no logical problem with your code as far as I can tell. The only thing is like I said, when I started reading it, I didn't have a clear picture as to why your display code worked because I wasn't aware that the rest of the lists were being padded. That's the only comment that I can really give because it was kind of confusing to me reading through your code for the first time. I mean, the rest of the code read just fine, and your logic seems solid.
Thanks.
But yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's.
Thank you for your time.
Sure. So, do we have any more questions from anyone? As we're going to be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. Nelson, are you seeing doubles over in your BuzzNet list?
I'm seeing 2 NATOs.
I see 2 NATOs, 2.
I see 2
Yep,
red
yeah,
asks.
so do I. Okay, good. Actually, I see 3
Greg,
if you look up to the I'm not ready as well.
Actually, don't see 3.
He's at the bottom of the not readies for me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see it. Greg, yes.
And Florum,
Greg
no
asks,
C++ stuff yet. Greg asks what? Go ahead. Sorry.
Greg asked if strings are zero index based, and they are.
Yeah,
just like arrays.
everything is actually. Though, the only thing I can tell you about as far as classes go, so you guys will be the very first people to hear this, literally the very first, is tonight or maybe tomorrow a newsletter is going out, and next Thursday is at, I believe it's going to be at 3 o'clock, is going to be a free 2 to 3 hour UDK, intro to UDK. And that will follow with registration for this. This isn't my class, so don't think this hurts Unity in any means. Zach's going to be running this class. NATO, no heart attacks, but followed right.
I was going to say, you have to wait for pick NATO up.
Yeah, I know. That's why as soon as I saw the expression come from NATO, I was like, well, all right, breathe slowly. But the 6-week UDK class will begin the following week after the free one. Thanks, NATO. Zach's been putting that stuff together. He is he's like I said, the very first part of the class and stuff's already been put together. Ryan, that's. Do you want to explain again to Ryan about the not being able to ask questions in the question panel if you're a panelist?
Yeah, you need to. Where you're typing the messages, they're coming out as chat because currently you've got it set to organisers and panelists only. If you click on that, you'll get a drop-down list, and the last entry in which is send question to staff. If you click on that, it will put you back to asking questions the way you do before you're made a panelist.
Oh. Okay, so I guess Ryan's been...
Oh, he doesn't have that as selection. I don't understand why you don't have that as selection, but it should be there.
I'm trying to...
It's not off the bottom of the screen, is it? Oh. I haven't used a Mac in probably 10 years, I'm afraid.
Okay, Greg is asking to switch over.
Okay.
But keep him muted. All right, you should. Okay, I think I clicked that fast enough.
If you ever wonder what total chaos is, that was total chaos.
The well-known avant-garde composition, Total Chaos.
Yeah, Greg, he can't mute you until after the switch occurs, which is what he meant by he clicked it as quickly as he could. Wife and kids. So there you go. Total chaos.
Okay, so code. Well, what you're doing there on line, or, I mean, what were you going to say?
Line 29?
Well, I'm not sure where the 999 comes from, but what happens on line 31 is that for loop. Okay. But that for loop is going to iterate 999 times, meaning that I is going to become 0 to 998, and there aren't 998 digits in either the random string or the temp string. So you're going to run into an index out of bound exception. No. Yeah, because on line 26, you halt the execution of the program until the user hits enter. So on line 26 is only going to continue execution after the user's entered a number and pressed enter. Then it'll execute line 27, 28, and then open up the for loop, in which case it'll get one iteration done, up to 3 if they enter the 3-digit number, but immediately after that it's going to fail if the second that your I variable becomes greater than the amount of characters that the user inserted, just because you're looping, so crazily. Yeah, so at this point, you're still not doing any logic, but at least the program isn't crashing. It will crash, however, if the user inputs a 2-digit or 1-digit number, or if they insert strings. Well, see, that's if you run your program again. If you typed in 343, then you should get your indices. Because the way when you write out the index, it only writes it out if the character that you're on matches the character in the guess. So if you inputted like 444, it would have done 4. Well, I'm not sure.
All of programming is a logic problem, really.
Well, as far as what you're trying to do with this code, I mean, the code's doing exactly what you instructed the computer to do, but it's not actually doing anything with the guess. At this point, you're going to have to write code that will partition the guess into one of 3 lists of integers. Okay, yeah, and as far as this is actually going to be the hang in there column, because if you think about it, when you loop from 0 to 3 and you ask if a number at I equals another number at I, if those match up, that means not only is it the correct number, but it is also the correct placeholder. So that's actually going to be the hang in there column. and then you're going to have to do additional processing to handle the closed column. Okay. So caught the 9, and well, yeah. See, the 4 on your guess is at the third place value. The 4 for the answer is on the last place value. If you look at your code on line 31, that is comparing and not only the number's value but also their place value. Because if I say, give me the number at the first give me the first number or give me the first digit of your number, and then give me the first digit of the answer number, and then compare them. See, that's only going to compare 2 items at the exact same index. That's in no way going to ask if the 4 exists anywhere inside the random string, or the random number. It's going to just ask if 4 is in the same place value as the random number, because you're comparing I to I.
If you entered, say, 884 as a guess. Ooh. Okay. Well, it did what I expected it to do, which was correctly identify that and go into the loop. I wasn't expecting the error to occur. Oh, it's gone. Can I just, Soganatsu, while we're looking at Darth's screen and trying to sort out his problem, and he's having to use the chat to talk to us, it would be really helpful if you could just lay off the jokes a bit, just to make reading things a bit easier, please.
Okay, so alrighty. So in order to properly figure out the not closed column, you're going to have to do 2 loops. And the reason you're going to have to do 2 loops is you want to compare every item in the guess to every item in the random number. And the only way to do that is with a loop, or 2 loops. Yeah. See, you got the correct code for determining if it's in the hang in there column, but to get the close working right, you really need to do 2 loops. But I mean, how would you go about writing that? Well, you still need to create 2 for loops so that you get indexes from 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 2, 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 2. You want to be able to produce basically those indices so that you could use them to compare it to the guess to the random number string. So you'll need to enter in a second loop. You what?
To put it another way, what you're doing is doing the right thing, but for only one of your 3 digits. So how can you can use what you've done and make that occur more than once? Yeah. Sorry, jumping in.
Well, come on, just take a stab at about getting the not close column working right. Well, you're going to want to actually put the if inside of the second loop, because basically you want to loop 9 times in total. And then for every time that you loop 9 times, you want to do the if check.
He's there.
Okay, and you're going to have to make one more modification on line 35. Can you think of what that will be?
Control Z. Just once.
So close. I'll give you a hint. It was correct while you were in the process of editing it. Because remember, you have 2 variables now, but the great thing about them is that they'll allow you to compare every number to every number. And the 2 variables you have are I and j. So think about. All right. Now, so what happens when you run this? So now try doing like 114. Oh, that's okay. What's failing? Oh, well, yeah. Instead of doing close.i, close.i, I is going to be a number that is kind of independent of what your list contains. So if you wanted to retrieve the last item out of your close list, the most effective way to do that is instead of I, do close.length minus 1. Inside of the doohickeys, inside of the angle brackets, because you're going to be indexing on, and then close. It's not. It's not close.length. It's close.count.
Close happens again inside the angle brackets.
Yes, there's 2 closes.
Close, open angle bracket, close dot count, close, minus 1. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and the reason is that index operation is its own expression. It has no relationship to the expression outside of it. All right, and then that'll always remember that code, because that will always print out the last item in a list. So now if you try to run it again, so now if you do 003 or 223, I don't know if some zeros.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but you made errors go away. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Nope.
Little victories. That's what it's
Yep.
about.
So yeah, I would definitely walk away for after the open hours, and because when you get old, when things blow up your brain, it's not good.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And literally sleep on it, and it'll make more sense tomorrow. It really does.
yeah. Well, at this.
Oh, the anticipation when he's typing.
Yeah, but I mean, remember though, at this point, you have the tools to identify close columns and how hang in there columns. So, yeah, it's stuff and things. I mean, yeah, if you have any more specific questions, I would definitely be willing to answer them, or send me a PM tomorrow or something. Alrighty. So sweet. Ryan, I believe that's Ryan. Are you Ryan? Ryan
Yes,
Mac?
it is.
I mean, that would make the most sense, but I just want to verify before. Okay. So Ryan, let's go ahead and switch over to him real quickly.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So does any of that look right?
Alrighty. So your first, close. It's on the right track, definitely. The issue, though, that I see right off the bat is that your loops are going to continue. Once you run this code, you're going to have multiple items inside of your not close list and your close list and your hang in there list. Remember that I do see at least in your, you do remove the guess from your close list, but the funny thing about that is it's potential that you will have 3 copies of the guess in the close list, maybe even more. So you have all the logic for determining what list they go in down. That is all good. The only thing you're missing is you're going to end up with a lot of different copies of the numbers multiple times.
So just one more loop to clear out extras.
That's one way you could do it. Another way that I saw people today handling it, they kept a counter. So instead of doing close list dot add last guess, you simply increment the close list counter, saying, okay, so there was a close hit, or there was another close hit, then there's another close hit, and all that stuff. And same thing with hang in there. You say there was a hang in there hit, there's another hang in there hit. Or with not close, you say there was at that point you don't have to do anything with that. And then you can simply say, if the close hit counter is greater than 0, if the hang in there counter is greater than 0, it's a hang in there, so you just have to add it once. If the hang in counter is 0 and the close counter is greater than 0, it's close, so you only have to add it once there. If it's neither of those things, then you could add it to the hang in there column. and that will prevent you from having duplicates entirely. But the logic is all good as far as detecting what goes where.
What about this part right here? This is still the part I'm fuzzy on.
Oh, actually, yeah, you're good point, because that's not correct. Your your first for each loop is fine. The second one, I probably wouldn't even use a for each loop for this one. I probably would use a for loop. And the reason is a for loop would allow you to increment an index from 0 to 2. And you'd be able to check out of both strings which, yeah. So if you, well, smaller than 3. Because if it's smaller than 2, then that's going to do 0 to 1. If it's smaller than 3, it'll do 0. Yeah. So now you have an index that you can use to check guess and random number at the same time, and check to see if both of their numbers and their placeholders line up. So the first step is going to be to convert guess and random number to a string so that you can yank out their individual digits easier.
Okay.
Your 0, yeah. And then so start with that. Then the next thing to do would be to, now after those parens, you can simply use the index operator, the square brackets.
Okay.
So if you open up a square bracket, then just put I in there, and then do the same for guess.toString. And at that point, you're going to be comparing not only if the numbers are correct, but also if they're in the right placeholder. Or place value, sorry.
Okay.
So does that kind of make sense as far as how you got?
Yeah.
And then the final thing to make this, the final thing for this would be to not edit the lists inside of those, but simply set either booleans or counters that you increment or set to true whenever you get a match. And then use some if statements to decide which one of the lists it should be added into, depending on which flags are set.
Put the booleans inside the if?
Well, you're going to have to define them outside of both of the for loops, or both of the loops, so that you can access them. So like, for example, on line 63, you don't need them anywhere else. It's just like on line 63, if you define 3 booleans, or 2 booleans, sorry, is close and then is hang in there and initialize them to false. Han in there.
Yeah, I got that.
And then, and then where would you go from here?
So instead of this, it would be
All right, and then on line 72,
then put this in an if statement?
well, there still is a small issue between line 74 and 70 whatever. What would you do with that code, with that entire else block? Remember, though, that now that you're using booleans, you can infer if it's not close after the booleans have been set. So there's no real action that you're going to need to take.
So I don't need this at all.
No. And then finally, after the last for loop, now you have the correct code or the correct data to determine what list it should go in. So if on line 82, if you add a new line, so how would you use, after the loop? You're not going to want to do it inside the loop.
Right.
How would you use those two booleans to determine which list it should go in?
Holy crap, I can't.
Okay.
Is that right?
On line 83, if you read that out loud in English,
If not is hanging there and not is close.
well, that's actually the or. Yeah, there you go.
Got it. Okay.
And how would you detect if it went to the hang in there column? Because you haven't added it to any of the other columns yet.
Should I just do another if statement?
Maybe. Tyler's not going to bite you. Might become very angry.
Mine, but
Now think about what Boolean would be set when it's appropriate to add the guess into the hang in there column. All right, and then finally you have one more column to deal with. All right, you're really close. There's just one bug.
Okay.
Think about the condition in which the is close Boolean will be set. Okay, so yeah, I mean, at this point, at least this part of the logic is complete. How do you feel about it? About this code, at least?
It's a lot simpler than what I was trying to do.
But at this point, now,
Print right.
yeah, at this point, your biggest thing is going to be getting it to print.
Well, that's easy enough. Okay.
Alrighty. Okay, so
So
yeah,
if
any more
there's no
questions? If you had a question earlier, could you repost it? Because some of the questions went in the chat and some went in the BuzzNet, and so I don't want to miss anybody's question. If I did miss anybody's question, just like slap me around. Are you sure, Jesse? Earlier you're saying that something about like I would vomit or something. And again, it's not. Yeah, never mind. You already know. Well, if you want to show everybody your code, then you can.
Can I suggest this is another hour we've been going?
Well, actually, I want to.
I just want.
Yeah, I know. I'm hoping that we can go ahead and get it wrapped up here really soon.
Yeah, I wondered if that was
Yeah.
the case.
Or Dave did have a question, actually. Jason Nelson, maybe small talk about program planning, identifying different steps to complete the task, pseudocode, etc. Most of the questions tonight have been about this, not C# in particular. Well, yeah, that's a really good question. Generally, there's different approaches that you can take to planning a program, but generally I like to think about it in terms of two things: the data model and the user interface. And then the processing well, of course, the processing, but that's in these examples or in these bits of code, the processing is done in line with the user interface. But generally, when I first was thinking about when I came up with the homework assignment, well, how would I implement it? The first thing that I thought of was, well, I'm going to need the correct variables to store these lists in. What kind of variables? What are their names? Where do they go? Then the next question was, well, how am I going to display this data? So then I write the code to display it properly. And being able to write code in steps like that is very helpful. Like you'll notice earlier, I wrote the output code before I wrote the processing code. And that's something that you'll very commonly do. You'll break down the program into different discrete problems. I mean, if you think about this program, there are three problems. There's displaying the table of data, there's getting the input from the user, and there's determining which column each individual guest should go in. And that's sort of how I see it, just in my mind when I visualize it. And that's one way to think about programs as you go to write them. And then once you think about it in terms of those broad strokes, then you can break down each individual part into its own set of problems. It's all about breaking things down into the smallest unit that you can accomplish, creating that unit, watching it succeed, and then moving on to the next unit. I generally don't use pseudocode. I just don't. Generally, well, I guess you could say I do. I will often write C# code that doesn't necessarily compile because I don't have the right types or methods created. But I don't do like commenting pseudocode. I fire up a new console application, throw a code at it, see if I like what it looks like, and then dump it into a project. Did you, Jason, or Gavin want to add anything to that?
No, that's pretty good.
No, I'm fine.
All right. Did that answer your question, or was there anything more specific you wanted me to address?
Can the info about courses be repeated? The only thing I said is that, unfortunately, C++ is not quite ready yet, and that we were going to be. Zach has got a free 2 to 3 hour UDK class that'll be next Thursday that nobody else knows about yet, and registration for that will be going out in an email tonight or tomorrow morning. And then the other thing is the 6-week class for that, I believe, the registration for it will begin right after that free webinar. So yeah, NATO, whatever next Thursday is, and I believe it is the 29th. But Zach, that is going to be Zach's baby. So, yeah, that's that. And then tomorrow night we will be meeting back up once again to continue pushing forward with another repeat for the C# class for this week. That'll be at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. So for any of you guys that would like to join in, please feel free to. And NATO, thank you very much, sir. I will be talking with you. I'm sure he'll be able to use the help. And I think that's all I have to report right now. I'm really glad to see that there are a lot more of you that are taking advantage of the opportunity to have us switch over to your screen and to help out. Definitely a good idea to get a mic if you don't have one, and a set of headphones as well. It's a very small investment in your education, but a very wise one in my opinion. So yeah, and for those of you that are also in the Blender class, the Blender video has been pulled down. As soon as I stop with this one, that's number one on my priority list, is to get that one broke up and put back up, because the near half a gig size is what is just destroying the video system. So, so yeah, there's a little bit of information on that. So hopefully the 3-parter will go back up later tonight. 2 or 3-parter, we'll see. So hopefully, hopefully you guys are all in good shape. But that's going to wrap it up. So you guys all have a wonderful night, and we'll see some of you guys back tomorrow night. So goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.